Steve Hanke is a professor of applied economics at Johns Hopkins University. Joins us with his take on what's happening with this market. And Steve, it's lovely to have you on the show. It's been a while since we interacted. But what do you make of this move? And do you think it's macro-related? Because that's what one of the cryptocurrency evangelists yesterday on the show had to say.
Well, I think, we've been to this rodeo before. When it reached the all-time high of 69,000 back in November of 2021, then it crashed down to 18,000. So it took off, 75% off of that all-time high. So it goes up and down. My point on Bitcoin, Tanvir, is that it is a highly speculative asset. I've said that since day one. And I've also said it's a highly speculative asset with zero value. In that sense, I do agree for a change with the European Central Bank. That's what they say too. And the third point is that it's clearly not a currency. Anything that's this volatile could never be qualify as a currency or a stable unit of account that people would be making contracts, long-term contracts and commitments in. You were talking earlier about, NVIDIA, and would you consider NVIDIA stock a currency? I mean,
at least like NVIDIA,
at least it makes something. It makes chips. I mean, what's Bitcoin make? That's why the fundamental value really isn't. It's just not there. So at any rate, it goes up and it goes down, and I'm not calling whether it's going up further or going down one way or another. I'm kind of, shall we say, neutral on it, but I think it's very important that people realize what it actually is. And I do think, by the way, that one reason it's going up, and all of cryptos, by the way, are going up, is because it, in a way, produces services. It produces a lot of pollution too, but the services are all bads. And that is, what do you use it for? Well, you use it to evade sanctions, evade capital controls, engage in a multitude of nefarious activities. So that's more or less what you have, but it's going to the moon right now. No question about it.
Yeah, 45% in 2 months. And that's what I wanted to ask you, Steve. Is this about the macro environment changing, rates going down, and the anticipation of that driving speculation in this market or interest in this market? Because we had a guest yesterday who pointed out that typically at higher levels, the use case of Bitcoin becomes more store of value.
Well, since I think it's a highly speculative asset with a zero value, I don't think it's based on any fundamentals. I mean, and it's not a currency, so the idea that you're looking at macro fundamentals and somehow that's driving things, I think is kind of a fool's game, really.